What's up, world? How's everybody doing today, tonight, tomorrow? As I always say, whatever time, realm, dimension you're living in, I hope you're doing great, feeling blessed, no stress. I really, truly mean that. It's a stressful world out there, and I know a lot of times we have to ask ourselves, am I in the right dimension, in the right place here? Because everything has turned so chaotic in this world that it's easy to feel like you're lost. You may not be lost to say, but that feeling of wonderment, where are we headed next? It's a natural feeling to have in this world right now, because we truly don't know what tomorrow brings. And I always say, we don't know what tomorrow takes away either. Recently, we talked about the events that were going to take place on November 4th, also the possible DoD EMP. Now, I made this clear that we didn't know what this day was going to bring. Could bring nothing. Could have just been another day. And that's what we wanted. We didn't want a day of chaos. And anybody who craves this chaos, who craves this battle, to say, your mindset is in the wrong place. Get it somewhere else. We need a peaceful land, a place where we can talk to each other and not be in these predicaments that, unfortunately, yes, the powers that be are putting us in, but we ourselves are placing our minds there, placing our bodies there. In this world where we don't get along, where we don't see eye to eye, where we can't even have a conversation to get to the point. And that's what we got to get to, folks. We got to be able to talk to each other. I say it all the time. We don't have to agree on everything. Lord knows that's normal. People are going to have different opinions, different flavors, different taste. We don't have to all eat the same thing. We don't have to all drink the same thing. But at least, hopefully, we can sit down at the table and have a meal together. I don't mean that literally. It would be nice, though. So, all right. So we didn't get anything on November 4th, right? Great. But unfortunately, November 5th brought something. And throughout this whole thing, I couldn't help but to wonder, would the 4th really be the day? Truly think about it. If we go back in history, what was the day? Remember the 5th of November. And now, unfortunately, we're going to remember the 5th of November, but for the wrong things. We'd hope one day it could be for something good, but this time it was definitely something bad. So we had a shooting at a church. So we've had the largest shooting in U.S. history. We've had a motorist run down people in New York. Not to mention all the other horrible incidences that have taken place throughout the world. But now at a church. So here we are, November 5th, Devin Patrick Kelly. Yes, unfortunately, this MK Ultra looking SOB opened fire on the church. Went into the church, had time to reload. Thankfully, as we've been told as the story goes, though, a bystander happened to notice what was going on, grabbed his rifle, and basically engaged with the suspect. At this point, I guess he had fired a shot off and supposedly hitting the suspect. Or at least that's what a lot of us have been led to believe. At this point, he went and flagged down another citizen in this town where everybody knows each other, but they didn't know each other. Granted, that can happen. I live in a small town. I don't know everybody. And he told this person what had happened, and this guy who looks like a comic book hero for rednecks, love the tattoo, homeboy, they jumped in. As he put it, they pursued the suspect. Now at this point, or at some point, he went off the road and they held him at gunpoint, waited for law enforcement, and I guess somewhere in between this, either he shot himself or he was killed by this person with a gun. Now, right away, speaking of guns, you know it, with your politicians, right away they see an opening for gun control. And we know these days are going to come. We know this moment may come one day. And that a lot of us do fear this moment, but they use these incidents to gain control on guns. They don't want us to have them. Especially people, a lot of people in our mindsets. They think that we are a threat. That's why we see the censorship we do. And we know that the last thing they want is us having weaponry. So, right away though, the usuals come out, start speaking of gun violence, and we have to do something about it, even though there was a gun used to stop this situation. And it's funny, when they start talking about this, they all kind of nonchalantly play that part off. You know, and I always say, when it comes to a weapon, now let's just imagine I grab a pencil and I go to write my name down and I misspell my own name. Do I blame it on the pencil or do I blame it on myself? Because that's basically the argument that we constantly hear. Oh, it's the gun's fault. It's the gun's fault. It's the person behind the gun. It's the same thing with the person behind the pencil. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Same thing with acid, pressure cookers, knives, swords, machetes, whatever, a pencil, if you're John Wick. But these things happen. It's not just the gun. They want to make guns like they're something evil when they're not. Now, that's not what I really want to get into with this, because really, truly, a lot of us, we know the truth behind weaponry. We know that for a fact it is not that issue, but we do need to fight that issue. We cannot let our guns be taken away. All right, and I'm not going all, God bless American guns, woohoo, red, white, and blue, yeah. I'm not going that route, but it is our right. And we can't let that right be taken away, because if we do, we are left out in the cold with nothing to defend ourselves. And with a government and a society where we know we do need these things, especially with these kind of people out there. Now, a lot of people are saying this incident didn't happen at all. They're saying that nothing, just like Vegas, a lot of people are coming out and say that nobody died, nothing happened here. And once again, I'm torn, and I've seen a lot of footage and heard a lot of people say that they had family members or knew people there that were killed, unfortunately. My heart goes out to you. All right. Now, that's not to say, though, this situation is not a set-up situation, because we see what they're trying to do in society right now and pin us against each other. This suspect, as they'll call him, Devin Patrick Kelly, was a former member of the Air Force. Now, he was dishonorably discharged due to, I believe, battery on a spouse and his child. So he wasn't the best cat out there already. But we have seen in the past, with some of these shooters that come out, and these pictures that we see of them, where they just look like, you know.
Really, the only word for it is...
Yeah, just Homer Simpsoned out on a big fat day. And that's what we're seeing again. And I can't help but to think MK Ultra, especially having that former military training and being in the military, being around that kind of lifestyle. We know when it comes to the Air Force, a lot of times that's the brains there. You got to be pretty smart to get in the Air Force, okay? If people don't realize that, to pass the test to get in there, it ain't just every Joe Schmo walk in off the street and get into the Air Force. You got to be a smart cookie. This is what really got me, was the name they gave him. You know, he had converted to Islam, and the name they gave him just ironically happened to be the same name that we were given during the beginning of the Las Vegas shooting. Now, some people may have not noticed that. Yes, same name. At that point, they kind of moved away from that, and it was that he was a far right-wing militia guy, and that kind of went away. And then it was... has a grudge against somebody at the church. Somebody had a wrongdoing. And then now we're starting to see this Antifa thing being pushed. Now, it seems to be backing off, but then it keeps flaring up again. The FBI and other sources, they basically washed this guy's social media accounts. But before that happened, a lot of people captured some screenshots. Now, there are some claiming that he had an Antifa flag in one of his pictures. I don't know the credibility of this. I will double check it and make sure. But if this is the case, I wonder how much of this is really truly Antifa and not this is just a guy placed in with a whole Antifa background to keep this Civil War narrative going, to keep this animosity going, and to really truthfully just amp it up tenfold. Because that's what you'll get with this if he is related to Antifa. The problem I have with that is I've seen these Antifa cats, and I could see them radicalizing. I could see them getting militant, having former military members. But a lot of them, for the majority, I can't see them doing this. They don't fit. They talk a mean game, they talk a big walk, but in reality, they're not the toughest cats. They're not the most gun-loving fools. This guy had training. That's not to say this couldn't happen like that, and that this guy is truly Antifa. Now, at first, we were reported 27 dead, but that number did change. It went down to 26. He ended up being the 27th dead body. I don't know, folks. Now, like I say, we were all worried about the 4th, and probably a lot of us thankful nothing did happen, myself included. But then when I got up and this happened on the 5th, I couldn't help but to keep hearing in my head, remember, the 5th of November. And can't help but to wonder if the 4th was nothing but an opening of the book, and now we're really getting into things. I got a feeling we're going to see more incidences like this, and it's unfortunate. Now, I'm not trying to go out there and start this whole fear thing, but we've seen it ramp up. We've seen Vegas, New York, now this. We've seen other small pockets of attacks. We're seeing this ramp up. We're seeing these things really start to come to the forefront and take over our lives. This is the world we're living in, unfortunately. Now, I say a lot of times, I don't want people to fight. I don't want to see a civil war, but I will tell you, protect yourselves and be ready at all times. If you are caught in a situation like this, defend yourself. At all costs, defend your family, your loved ones. Do not be a victim if you have any say-so in it. Don't let this fear control your life. Be ready for it, and if that time comes, you confront it if you have to. I'm not saying go look for a fight, but if the fight comes to you, be ready. And make sure that you come out of it on the better end. Now, one thing I can't help but to notice here is, especially with government and technology these days, and it leads me back to Vegas and other events. There's a company out there called NVIDIA, I believe it is. And basically they're working with Google and other forms of AI. This thing can create people out of the blue. Create its own superstars, its own Earth, basically. It can create backgrounds, houses, animals, whole situations. But it can create these people. And now I can understand where a lot of people think these false flags are nothing but complete hoaxes. These people don't exist. And when you see a program like this, it kind of triggers your brain to think, is all this stuff just stories created by these AI systems? Are these fabricated victims? Fabricated shooters? Do these people really exist? We see with Stephen Paddock the way his background was. All the tape and gray area here, figuring out specifics on him. And it's the same thing, it seems to be, even though it seems like we know more about Texas already than we know about Vegas still. The thing that worries me, is the fact that I don't think this is the end at all. I think this is the beginning. And that's what scares me. And this ain't to put fear into people at all. This is just to make you look at the reality that we're living. The reality that we wake up into every day. This reality, this world, it's not the world I grew up in. And it's not the world I want my children or my loved ones to live in. It's a frightening world. Around every corner, we don't know what could happen. In a small town, you think you're safe, and then something like this could happen. I'm not saying this didn't happen. I'm not saying it happened, because unfortunately, you know what? We live in that world too. We don't know what's true or what's false, what's reality, what's not. And that's, whatever time, realm, dimension you're living in. Because truthfully, we can't hardly tell where the reality ends, where the truth begins. But I can tell you this, always be ready. Always be prepared. Keep your eyes open. Keep your mind sharp. It's so true. You don't know what tomorrow brings or takes away. So I ask all of you, please, if you're not ready, be ready. Don't take that chance. You may call something like this fake, but then you might find tomorrow that you're caught up in something all more real than you can imagine. So be ready, folks. As I get more information on this case, I'll definitely be uploading. Hopefully we'll have more information than we have in the past, and we can get to the bottom of things. Again, everybody out there who was affected by this, if truly affected by this, my heart goes out to you. And I hate to see anything like this. It doesn't matter where it's at. Church, mall, store, a life is a life. None of them should be taken. So, everybody out there, thank you so much. Always truly, from the bottom of my heart, always giving me this opportunity more than anything. Y'all stay blessed. Y'all stay incredible. See you next time.